Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Mark. And now we'd like to invite Pascal Pilon from Lander, Alexis Smirnov from Dialogue, and Jake Chadwick from Sport Logic, as well as Mike Lee from R&D Partners on stage. Mike, I'll hand it over to you. You will be the moderator. Let's give them a big hand while they sit down on those chairs. There you go.
Thank you, Rick. Hey, thank you. Just sit there. So first of all, it's actually Craig Buntin from Sport Logic. We're lucky to have. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming here today. I think for a lot of the entrepreneurs in the audience, this is kind of where they want to be, having raised a big round, having kind of done something which is often very hard to do. So to start with, I'd just like you to introduce yourself. So maybe Pascal, start with yourself.
So my name is Pascal Pilon. I run a tech company called Lander. It does machine learning over audio processing. So it basically does the job of sound engineers for now 1.7 million users in the world.
I'm Craig Buntin, co-founder, CEO of Sport Logic, former Olympic athlete, co-founded Sport Logic with a group of PhDs in machine learning AI. We take professional sport, so NHL teams, we track hundreds of millions of data points per game and we help them win more. We help fans engage with sport and we also help predict game outcomes.
Cool, thank you, Craig. Alexis.
Good morning, everybody. Alexis Smirnov, co-founder, CTO of Dialogue. So Dialogue is a virtual care service. We essentially build an end-to-end experience for patients to connect to nurses and doctors and get this continuity of care from the beginning of one's illness or medical issue all the way to the resolution. And we sell this as a corporate benefit. So companies pay us per employee per month to offer this benefit to their employees and their families. And my background is engineering, cloud AI, and kind of product strategy.
All right, thank you, Alexis. So raising a bid round. So you've all raised approximately 10 million Canadian or more. Maybe Alexis, tell us your experience. How hard was it? How long did it take?
So the last round we raised was 12 million. So the way it happened is in September 2016 we started kind of thinking about, hey, we gotta get going on this because our seed round of 4.5 million is kind of we see the end of the runway there with all the growth of the business. So we spent about a month building a pitch deck, and we started in October with warm introductions. We started pitching. We were doing this for about 6 weeks until we had a agreement for a term sheet, and I think money in the bank was like in early January, like after due diligence. So all in all, is about, I don't know, give it like 60, 90 days type of thing.
Wow, so that's pretty good. That's hopefully maybe as good as it gets from what I've heard. So well done on that. Craig, how about yourself? How did it go?
The product is we use in our office actually. So whoever invested, well worth the investment. So we've raised a little over 10 million total over a few rounds. Two very different raises. The first sort of our seed round a few years ago. We put together really as much power as we could, as cheaply as we could before we began raising the round. We knew we had some deep technology that we had to invest in, so what we did is we got some private or public grant money, invested in university research across about 7 universities. So when we showed up for the round, we had, look, here are 7 PhD or professors at these universities who are leading our tech stack. Here's some market interest. Here are the people who are on board. And we had a lot of pieces together. We did it with angels here in Montreal, and it was just old school knocking on doors. Probably took 2-3 months-ish of sort of rounding everybody up. I then found, once we had sort of our lead and we had a little bit in and we had a bit of momentum, I had found Mark Cuban's email address literally on a forum, and I had sent him an email saying, hey Mark, here's what we're doing, here's all our stuff. And so when he came in, it all just sort of started flying forward. The latest Series A was really a, you spend 2-3 years developing relationships with investors and individuals for, throughout the process of building a company. And then at some point when you're ready to pull the trigger, usually the ones who are looking to lead are sort of at the front, waiting to get in. And so the last round was a lot easier.
Right. So as you kind of got some traction at the beginning, you then got some investment. As you got more traction, it actually got a little bit easier, even though the raise is probably larger.
Yeah.
Right. How about for you, Pascal?
We raised about 14 million over 2 rounds and some notes as well. The latest thing we've done is raise 7 million of notes in preparation for Series B. Series Seed was seemed easier because there was a lot of investors. We used the help of Ange Québec and a number of other entrepreneurs in the city. So Seed felt much easier than Series A. Series A brought us to visit tons of VCs in California, in London, in New York, and so forth. And we did that in 2015. And in 2015, music had no real success stories to go with, so we felt like going against the wind. So the sector was a big deal. The industry was not trendy at all back then. And AI was not, I wouldn't say it was early, but it wasn't exactly something where investors were rushing in. So Series A was very difficult. And you have to find your lead, and once you have your lead, everything unfolds. But finding the lead is the single toughest thing to do when you do this. Anybody that says that they're gonna be following the lead that invest, I mean, there's always people to follow when there's a lead, so I'd say.
Right, so getting that lead, and for you with the lead, like Mark Cuban, I guess that was the big name.
For the seed, yeah, exactly.
Seed. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean for the Series A, I mean Roe came in. I had been in touch. They had led the Series A and they had passed on the seed previously, and they were upset because we ended up executing on everything we said we were going to execute on. By the time we came up to the Series A, it was a pretty rational choice for them to lead the Series A.
Right, and with you, Alexis, the lead was?
Well, our story is a bit different about the lead, but this is the hardest thing indeed. We kind of had a wrinkle there. So the seed was done by an incubator called Diagram. So Diagram is a fintech and health tech incubator that has a relationship with Portage Ventures. And so Portage Ventures is an institutional investor of Power Corporation. So everybody's happy with the progress and the performance of the company. So now imagine Portage goes and leads that round. What kind of valuation you're going to get if it's essentially done in the family? What is the signaling you're sending to the broader market about that valuation if it's effectively there is no external perspective on the valuation when Portage would essentially lead that round? And so we had a very early interest from Portage because they've obviously been a very close supporter of the company. But we took a decision to go out to the market and look for a lead that would essentially bring external validation to the valuation of the company, and we found that with White Star Capital.
Okay, so often find the lead, but sometimes that kind of secondary validation means that now the groups are getting it in. Pascal, for you, so you kind of mentioned, I think for the most part it was equity raise. You did some notes. Why notes, and was that harder, or how did that work out?
You know, the beauty of notes is that you don't need to set a specific valuation. So oftentimes when you draw interest from investors and you have a hard time agreeing to a valuation, notes is a good mean to get the funding, enable you to develop additional features, reach certain milestones. And once you do that, then it gets easier to set a valuation. So notes is a great thing to do in between rounds when you do one of the typical, maybe not mistake, but a typical thing that happens, you don't raise enough money, right? So if in any given round, let's say you start a siege at a certain valuation, we started ourselves back in 2013. The pre-money was 3 million, so we raised 1.5 as a seed round.
Okay.
And 1.5 doesn't bring you that far. So we had to go into notes before we did the actual Series A, and then Series A went in. Same thing, we didn't raise enough. We raised 7, and then we had to issue notes before going to Series B. So I'd say notes is anything you need to reach that milestone that enables you to get proper valuation and the right supporters.
Right, right. Okay, so kind of nice add-on. Craig, having the word AI associated, so a lot of the pitching companies coming up today, there's some kind of AI in there. Does it help? How does it affect what you're doing for fundraising?
Of course, right now it helps. It is, I mean, there's a ton of interest in AI. There's a ton of private and public money going into it right now. Of course, I would caution against promising something that you can't deliver. I mean, of course, if you're a marketing firm who happens to have somebody doing, you know, some machine learning, you don't brand yourself as an AI company, right? I mean, there's a certain expectation that happens once an investor gives you the cash to build something that you have to deliver on it. I mean, fortunately for us, I mean, I actually wasn't allowed to use the word AI with our co-founder for 3 years until it was like, look, we can raise more money if we do. He said, okay, but only for marketing purposes. But I mean, we really had the team to back it up. I mean, we have now 10 full-time PhDs. We fund research at almost every major university across the country. We can say that, and even that, we're cognizant of the fact that we are saying it and delivering on specific items that we are actually producing, right? Okay. It as kind of a byproduct of the fact that it is so hot right now, I would caution just, I mean, all of us, myself included, that there is a huge disconnect between investor expectations and what AI is doing today. And a lot of that is because everybody sees that there's cash in the air for AI. So everybody's saying, yes, we do AI. Where it's like, you know, do you do machine learning? Do you do deep learning? Do you do signal processing? What is it that you do that is AI? And so I guess those are sort of my 2 points on it.
Right. Okay, makes sense. I mean, one thing I see is a lot of startups saying we're doing AI, but they don't really have the data points. You three all have lots and lots of data. Most startups don't have a lot of data to start with. So they're talking about doing AI, but to really be able to do AI, you need a lot of data to get there. Your thoughts, Alexis, on the AI?
Well, so maybe there is a bit of a difference, and I admire you guys to building AI-first companies. Essentially, in your case, if I understand correctly, you're essentially betting on the fact that AI is going to be the engine for behind the product that you're providing. Dialogue is a bit different, and please let me know if I got this wrong. Dialogue's a bit different. We're, as I would call it, an AI second company. We have a business. We have a business that generates certain margin, and that's this virtual care business. Now, you look at that business, and you essentially put forward a thesis that you can dramatically increase your margin by using technology. You can take these humans out of the loop of this care interactions for some of the mundane and formulaic conversations. You can apply predictive analytics on you know who to remind to take their medication and who to not to remind. So there is a tremendous value in increasing efficiency of the business. But it's not like betting on AI. So that's why to us, Dialogue's really an AI second company. You build a business first, and then you make that business better using a technology.
Right, right. How about you, Pascal? Was AI there right from the beginning?
In this case, it was, but AI to me is just part of the tool set. I mean, you can build like marketplaces. To me, AI is really all about automation. It's just that you can use automation now in a way that was different. It's not algorithmic. It's more like data-centered. So I just like the fact that it opens so many new opportunities, things that weren't feasible before. So as such, I think it's great, and I think it needs to be in pretty much every business, but not necessarily as a central feature. Just that in my case, it was the foundation of the value proposition of the company, so it needed to work. But AI is exciting Canada as a country. Canada is investing and supporting VCs and communities around AI, so there's lots of money there. I mean, if there's money there, sometimes it's just a filter. If you don't have AI as part of your strategy, you will not even be considered for investment. So I'd see it more as a prerequisite for anything else. And you know, I'm not a purist, I appreciate AI, but even if a tiny element of a product includes AI, I'm all for putting it as the center of the pitch. It is needed. You gotta sell what people buy, and that's what investors are looking for now.
So bottom line, I think in this day and age, you need AI to be part of your business, but it may come in different ways and forms depending on your
Yeah, I
model.
mean, you could quite literally start a company that doesn't have it, and your strategy is simply, look, wait for Facebook or Google to come out with this one piece of thing, and this will be more efficient where our whole business will go. That is still a component of AI that would make your company more efficient at some point, where that's an AI second approach, right?
I guess another benefit of this AI second approach is you get to generate a data set that is unique and proprietary. So in our case, we have this data set of conversations between like real nurses, real doctors, and real patients. Like you can't buy that. Like this is gold for all kinds of models that we can build on top of this data set. And so that's another advantage of building or going with AI second strategy.
Right. Okay, so you guys have all been quite successful, really, in Montreal. You're kind of, I would say, some of the best companies out there that have been out and got funding. Mistakes you made, like big mistakes. And I'm sure, you know, we all make mistakes. Pascal, any thoughts there?
You got to spend a lot of time on the psychology of investors, I think. And when you think about the psychology of investors, even if the word VC includes the word venture, I mean, investors will be looking for the safest bets they can make. So, I mean, anytime we pitch something, we got to spend a lot of time on the rejections, ask questions as of what's not working, because I used to think in my early days that when you pitch something, if the story made sense, even if there was one or two weaknesses in the pitch, it'd be great, but in reality, the difference between getting money and not getting money is those few sticky points. You've got to try to solve every issue that you have to present so that it looks, I would say picture perfect, but definitely clearly repairable.
So sometimes you pitch to the wrong investor, or you had the wrong story, or simply you just got a lot of rejections, and that's just the way it goes.
You know, in our early days at Lander, people were talking about the market size, and it kept on coming. So that was another thing. So, you know, what would we do to grow the size of that market? So that when people would go and approach this element, they would be able to see, okay, great, you've got something else, you've got this thing. Right. So until you really have to solve everything that gets people from investing. If you don't, you're wasting your time, per se.
Right. Craig?
Yeah, I think I would even just build on that. For the seed round, I don't think I clearly communicated well enough what exactly we were building. Right, like we had, you know, this human-in-the-loop system that could develop something that we were competitive, and we were building, you know, for NHL teams, and we had signed on, I think, 15 teams at that point. And we were saying, look, here's this thing. We have a 300 millisecond latency where everybody else has a 12-hour latency. This is why we're doing it so well. And the consistent feedback I got was, well, how many NHL teams are there? How many, you know, if you go into one more league, how many is that? And people were kind of doing the math. And it was kind of like, well, no, this is a piece that is going to change everything about, you know, sport media and fan engagement. It's going to change everything about fantasy and sports betting and everything. And it's going to make the entire industry go high frequency. And I don't think I really spent enough time like really articulating the vision of where we were going, where it existed in my head, and I just assumed everybody would catch up, and I could sit there with a whiteboard and go, that looked great, right? But having a deck that really concisely and clearly communicates your vision was something that I didn't fully appreciate, I think, until later.
Pascal, you kind of smiled on that.
It's just that I invest as well in startups, and I missed the investment in SportLogic exactly on that point. I remember the lunches we've had together talking about this.
It was a good pitch!
And it was the thing I was missing. So
maybe that was the biggest mistake you made. It's not in your business, but in Craig's.
Yeah. Good job.
Interesting. Alexis.
Well, it's it's kind of tricky to draw the line. I think we're perfect in balancing the vision or big thinking and the focus. So you don't want to be like this crazy guy who says, like, we're going to be taking this dialogue worldwide, and we're going to be the world leading telemedicine virtual care provider, like MigDrop, right? So we kind of led with, hey, we are a Canadian company. We are solving a problem of access to healthcare in Canada. And then a VC listens to this and says, oh, so you're like, so what's the market size in Canada again? Like, where's Canada again? Being this Canadian, and plus we've been very strong in Quebec because we started in the province, that was the first province we launched. So fighting that perception that we somehow are this local company, and kind of changing that mindset in investors' minds was something that I think we could have done better.
Okay, so interesting, and I think it's, in all three cases, it was really explaining the market and showing that the market was actually, bigger market than people may have perceived. They may have just seen the little wins you had, but there's a huge, big market out there.
And I think that's one of the advantage of spending time with investors before needing the money, because you can flush out this miscomprehension or even like remove those imperfections, so that the day that you go and try to raise the money, you already eliminated all the rejection points.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Any kind of last words to the entrepreneurs before we go for a couple questions?
Stick in there. It's the best life of all. Building businesses is a lot of fun, and you never get tired of that. So it's a great life.
Nice inspiration.
Keep your eyes on that target, but understand that it's going to go this way to get there. And yeah, stick with it.
Right.
I'm what these guys said. I mean,
Okay.
hang in there.
So hang in there. Go meet the investors early. Hang in there, and I guess explain the market right and all that as well. So, thank you very much. Any questions? Hard to see from here a bit. Sure, so it's really a question, is it human first, AI second, in kind of summary?
I would put business first, technology second. So it could be that you can start and grow the business and learn how it operates and learn the economics of your business by humans. So in our case, it's certainly that's how we started. We had no AI whatsoever when we launched Dialogue. We also have no plans to get rid of nurses and doctors. These projections when AI is gonna get rid of all kinds of professions. I think nurses are the dead last on that list. So we're essentially all about creating this efficiency. So yeah, that's a strategy. I think you got to be very, very clear at the very beginning whether you're betting on the technology to be, especially with AI, to better that the technology is so good that the customer is willing to pay you money for whatever product that you're making, and it's a risky proposition, especially in AI, because you can build a system and the quality, the error rate is such that nobody's going to buy your product. And so that's something that you got to be really clear-eyed about. And so AI second is a kind of risk mitigation strategy to that.
Thank you, Lexi. Other question here? You know what? I'm going to come right down. Give the microphone.
I have a big voice as well, but it's fine with the mic. Okay, so I have like a three question. like, how do you find your seed investor? Okay, first question. Then how do you establish the money that you ask for? And how do you establish the value of the equity that you offer for that amount? Yeah.
Dive in, I guess. So tough to answer the first one because we came out of Tandem Launch, which is an incubator here in Montreal. They had a lot of LPs around. There are a lot of great people, even just in this room. I mean, Notman House is down the street. There is a great infrastructure here, and that's hustle, how you find the first investor. The second question is, how do you justify the valuation? You really, ultimately it comes down to these, I mean, an investor will look at the size of the opportunity and they're going to basically work it down from here is the size of the opportunity and what risk, you know, how much risk is in there and is this the right team and the right tech and the right everything that's going to actually seize that opportunity. So it's a size of the market minus discount rate. How do you justify, the third question was similar to the second, but it was...
How do you offer, like 15%, 20%, or is it a discussion that you have with those people?
Yeah, I don't know if there is a single model. I mean, our CTO is in the room and he hasn't been able to get, we haven't really had a perfect model, but I mean, every investor is going to look at this as an initial investment that they hope to receive 10x or more in the lifetime of the investment. They're also going to probably look for 3x or more between rounds. And so put yourself in their shoes, understand the types of investments that they can make and the types of investments that they're not going to make because of your company. And yeah.
There's a cheat for that. You just have to go on places like Crunchbase and you just look at companies at the same stage you're at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically, there's a rhythm to that. You start with venture, you raise seed rounds, you do Series A, Series B. So you basically just have to look at standard raises and look at the variance and stuff. And yes, there's a relationship with the addressable markets, but use comparables. Investors find reassurance in knowing that other investment has happened in a space at the similar type of valuation, and those are standard things. Why do a seed round gets a pre-money of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million? It doesn't lie on that much but comparables. It's quite intangible. And yes, you could go into future cash flows and addressable markets and so forth. Everybody used the shortcuts of taking comparables. So that's pretty much all you need.
And just to highlight your earlier Pascal's point, don't forget about convertible notes. That's a way to sidestep this whole valuation conversation for early rounds. So that's a good option for seed.
Other questions out there? All right. Well, I guess you guys answered the questions pretty well. I'd say one thing maybe I have a little question is in terms of going to see the investors. How early do you start? So we said start relatively early. Do you start, at what point exactly?
I mean, you talk about it all the time. It never stops. I'd say you put it together, try to frame that as a simple PowerPoint presentation. And, you go on Sequoia Capital, you look at the standard 10-slide presentation they ask from their investors. That's best practice. So you try to fill the 10-slide pitch deck format that Sequoia Capital is looking for, and you answer those questions. And if you do that, and it's very gracious from slide 1 to slide 10, you're in business to raise money. So I'd say work on it. And if you fall short of filling all the elements that you need, read again. Try to fill it and present it to people around you. Get advices, but it's like a sculpture. You need to work on it and refine it. And at some point, it clicks. And when it clicks, then you pitch. So you use your friends, the other entrepreneurs around you. You seek advice. Be very humble. Seek advice all the time. And at some point, you're going to feel that 10-slide presentation is a product of its own. It's an investment product. And it will get people invested. And typically, when it rains, it pours. I mean, if you have one investor, you're going to have maybe 10. So you'll see it when people start feeling it's good. And it's also your level of confidence. That's the other thing. The more you read about your space, the more you know about competition, what you're going to disrupt, what's your value proposition, the more focused you are, the more you will inspire confidence. Because in the end, it's just inspiring other people's confidence. And then it becomes delivering on that confidence so that you can do another raise. But you got to think far ahead, but explain very briefly what you're going to be able to do. Be brief, super important. The rarest thing investors have is time to allocate to listen to a story. So you got to be to the point. Do not expect an investor will have more than 5 minutes of his time before he gives you another 5. It's like playing a game with extended plays.
So Pascal, if I were an entrepreneur in the audience now and I saw an investor and I went over and said hello to him, how long should my pitch be? I don't know him. I'm just going over to say hi.
The elevator pitch is something that always horrified me because in 30 seconds I feel it's super short. We're not selling popsicles here. So I mean, I would expect an investor to have at least 3-4 minutes of his time to listen to my story. But the biggest mistake we always do is we start bottom up. You got to build your message like you build an article in a newspaper. You start with the headline and then the subtext and then the full thing, right? But bring people to understand what you're going to be talking about and then explain and then, give more details, but start with the headline all the time. That's always missing. So not the pressure of exactly a 30-second pitch, but at least here's what we do and here's why there's a need in the market and so forth. Here's why we're so well positioned to do this. If you don't have people's attention by then, they're not the right investors for you.
Right. How about you, Craig? Did you start right from the beginning pitching or meeting investors, or was it, okay, I better raise money and now I got to start doing it?
I have almost nothing to add to that. I would say, if you do get past those first, the headline and the subtext, and they're not interested, either they're not the right investor or your sculpture isn't perfect yet. That is, that was perfect.
Yeah. And did you start fundraising right away, like once you had the idea?
Well, 100%, right? You're always, you make a decision before you start a company. Are you going to raise and are you going to build, or are you going to own more of it and raise less? We knew that this was going to be a venture-backed firm from day one. So we were pitching, and in those early days, the narrative changed, the deck changed between every pitch. It was iterative on a daily basis. The name changed to the company. Everything sort of shaped as we were moving along. So it really was, as we were developing the product, the pitch was developing alongside with it.
Based on feedback, based on what's working in the market, based on how the technology is
we came up with the name and the logo about half an hour after a pitch that didn't work with our last name. And we went home, redid it, and then
what was your last name?
Oh God, I don't even want to say. It was horrible. It was brutal. It was brutal. Yeah.
All right. Interesting. And you, Alexis, did you kind of know from the beginning we're going to have to raise money?
Yeah, we knew from the beginning this is not going to be a lifestyle business. The opportunity is just way too big to just think small and build a little health clinic. And so we knew that. What we didn't know is how to articulate that vision. And I think this is excellent advice. You guys should listen to that. One thing that that could help as well is to structure your pitch as more as a dialogue, pun intended, I guess. This is what is going to help you to get questions and get reactions, and then you listen to those questions and the kind of a sub story or the intent behind these questions. And that's going to help you to polish your pitch or to pre-answer these questions. Because if one investor asks these questions, chances are another one has something like that in their mind. Maybe they haven't articulated it. So getting questions, getting this conversation going is important, especially in early days.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We got time for one more question? There's one out there. All right. I think we're good. Okay. Well, thank you very much, guys. Real inspiration. It's nice to see that people can go out there, raise money, do it properly. Thank you. Thank you.